Hello and welcome to the city property meeting on April 21st, 2020. On the committee this evening, we have Councilors Boschman, Green, Fleming, Squalia, and myself, Councilor Zarella. We also have with us Tom Skorowski from Community Development, who will be giving information on one of our items on the agenda. I believe there was registration for public comments through the city clerk's office. I have not been informed that we received any, either recorded by email or registered to join the chat, unless that's who Mr. Travis Falk is in the corner.
He's from FATV.
Thank you, Councilor. All right, in that case, I am going to just note that there are no public comments. And we will begin with the first item on our agenda, well, the first two items on our agenda, 04120 and 04220. These are continued matters relating to the AKS recycling lease. We have not yet received final documents on those. Solicitor Pusateri has indicated that those documents will be getting to us any day now, but that in order to give us time to review them, he recommends holding the matter until our next regularly scheduled meeting, which would be next week, fourth Tuesday. I anticipate holding that meeting as usual. So that said, unless anyone has any objection, I'd like to entertain a motion on that.
Motion to hold.
All right, I have a motion and second. I believe we do have to do this by roll call. So Councilor Boschman?
Yep.
Councilor Fleming?
Yes.
Councilor Green?
Yes.
Councilor Squalia?
Yay.
And I'm also yes, so it is unanimous. Motion carries. We are holding that until the next meeting. Next item, 04620, Councilors Fleming and DiNatale to declare Ethier Street a public way. We have received comment from the, actually, let me pull that up briefly. We have received comment from the planning board on that matter, which they asked to be entered into the record. However, we have not received anything from Public Works yet. Give me just a moment to pull up that. Okay, from Mike O'Hara via City Clerk Mary D'Alderetti. Dear councilors, I spoke with Mike O'Hara regarding what type of action he might expect council to take regarding 04620 Ethier Street private way. And he said that there were still some outstanding issues such as lack of deed that need to be addressed before completion. I asked if it would be appropriate to consider this a communication, and he agreed that at present that might be the best approach. So that will be entered on the record. Councilor, I'll forward that to you to include in the record.
Great.
And I would entertain a motion to additionally hold that.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and second, Councilor Boschman.
Got one question. If we can make note that from now on, I'm not going to accept streets unless I see it signed off by an engineer that has been inspected. I'm tired of going back and repairing streets that are not signed off. We have no kind of documentation. A prime example is Arbor Way. We're going to spend almost $1 million fixing it. So I want some documentation from engineers that said they did the road properly before I accept any kind of streets from now on.
All right, I will just note that that is going to be part of the process. So that being said, I have a motion and second. Sorry, bear with me as I figure out this mute unmute thing. It's taken a bit of getting the hang of multitasking. And it does appear that we do have some people here to speak on the next upcoming item. I'm just letting everyone know. They are actually involved in the petition, not public comment. Or at least I'll confirm that they are. Okay, so we have Councilor Boschman.
What's that? Oh, yes.
on the motion to hold? Thank
Hold.
you. Counselor Fleming,
Hold.
Counselor Green,
Yay to hold.
Counselor Squalia. Oh, I'm sorry, I hit the wrong button. Could you repeat?
Yay.
Thank you. It is unanimous, motion carries. We are holding on that as well. Next up, this is actually, since we have comment on, or since we have people here specifically on 120, I'm going to skip to that one first. 120 ordered that we authorize the mayor to execute and accept the request for proposal from Via Irada Investments LLC regarding 190 River Street as outlined in the enclosed order. Before we go to any of that, I do just want to note for the committee members, because this seems to be a common point of confusion, we are only being asked to approve the sale, not to approve the underlying intent of the use of the property. That would still be handled by the ordinary boards and commissions and so forth that would normally have to handle it, planning, zoning, etc. And those boards and the building department have been very clear that they do not intend to deem any approval we might grant as an approval of the underlying intent. That being said, I would like to turn it over to Tom Skrowski and FATV, if you could identify for me in the chat, please, which of the three individuals, if any, are not directly representing the petitioner, and the others you can queue up to join the chat as we go. Thank you. Tom, thank you for coming.
Thanks for having me. Good evening, everyone. So this is the two properties you have in front of you are the second round of RFPs that the Community Development Department has been working on. We had our initial round, we didn't get a great deal of feedback. And we actually just got one proposer who submitted 3 proposals for 3 of the 4 properties in question, and all for only a nominal fee. And it just led us to go down the road of working with a realtor, which I think was a fruitful one, because ultimately a realtor is well positioned to sell property. It's what they do, as opposed to selling property out of 166 Boulder Drive. So we worked with Keller Williams, and they basically put out our request for proposal, but then went through all the traditional realtor avenues to market the property, holding open houses, putting properties up on Zillow, LoopNet, what have you. And we received 2 proposals, one for 190 River and one for 104 Daniels, both of which we then took to our property committee, not to be confused with the council designation, but just locally with community development and with the building department to vote on the properties. And according to the criteria we set out in the proposal, both of them did qualify. So it sounds like we're starting with 190 River. This is a parcel that was a formerly mixed use demo from a few years back. And we really thought that the proposal we got in front of us, which is to build a commercial site for the retail sale of flooring, was really the perfect example of what we're trying to do with our demo program. Bringing properties not only back on the tax rolls, but back on the commercial tax rolls in this case, which is fantastic. And I think, it being on the River Street corridor, that we've seen a great deal of growth along that corridor over the last few years, it's a great spot for it. In addition to that, I think the proposal and the proposer are really those folks best positioned to put forward a successful proposal, given that they also own the property adjacent 180 River Street, and actually within the last year purchased a right of way from the railroad that kind of follows along the back of 190 River. And taken together, this has allowed them to really utilize the most land area for a proposal that anyone could have as the direct abutter. And I think that the end result is one that, provides a cash benefit to the city, to be sure, but also in the long run helps continue to set that corridor along a path for future growth.
All right, thank you. I believe that we have a Mr. Rick Healy waiting to speak on this petition. I am given to understand he's involved with the RFP. If we could include him in, we will hear from him now.
Rick is representing the proposer.
Okay, excellent. Rick, you are now unmuted. Thank you for coming. And is there anything you'd like to add to the committee?
No, it sounds like Tom did a pretty good job explaining what's going on. I guess I just want to tell you, we've been working with Romy for quite a few years now, and he does a fantastic job. He's renovated a number of houses, and one of the hallmarks is the tiling jobs that he does in these properties. The one thing that I would say that this proposal, and I think Tom outlined it, it does actually solve the problem of 3 different properties. 190 is going to have a commercial site, commercial building built on it. 180, which was a bank foreclosure that Romy has renovated, and he's done a fantastic job on that. But what would the ZBA required that they eliminate access to 178 River Street, which now, because of the limited access on 180, so now 178 does not have any off-street parking, but by just reconfiguring this land slightly with the ZBA's approval, I think we can get access that will provide 178 with off-street parking as well. I think this is a home run for 3 different properties. I think it's a home run for the corridor there, and I'd encourage you to approve this.
Thank you. I believe we have Councillor Green waiting to speak.
I just read in the proposal of this that the goal will be to sell 180 River Street once it's remodeled, and that will help further the plan to develop 190 River Street. So I want to know if 180 and 190 are going to remain 2 separate deeds, and then by what impact having a commercial/retail space directly abutting almost a practically brand new single family or 2-family home right there on River Street, what impact that may lead to. Thank you.
I'm going to unmute both Tom and Rick, and either one of you can respond to that. Just a moment. Go ahead.
I'll first defer to Rick, and then I'll answer any questions he's left unaddressed.
The one thing, what I'd say about 190 River Street, there's only 13 feet of driveway to the right of this house. We intend to add another 13 feet further to the right, which will make the access and the house itself be much more accessible. The property next door, this is already in a mixed neighborhood. The zoning there is commercial and automotive. So it's already going to be in a mixed neighborhood. But I think a new building there rather than vacant land that actually at some point had been collecting pallets and that sort of thing, really, I think a new building there will enhance the value of it.
And I'd echo all of that and also add the use type in particular, although it's certainly commercial, it's one with a relatively low intensity of use. So, this won't be a bar or a cafe, where you get consistent churn, but it'll be a retail store for flooring, which is sort of a niche good. So again, it is on a commercial corridor. It's something we thought about, to be sure, as we were taking in the proposal, but we do think it could fit in well with the neighborhood.
All right, thank you. Councillor Green, does that answer your question?
Yes, it does. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I have Counselor Squalia. Real quick, before I go to her, I would like to just ask, I've got a Mr. Mark Kavanaugh here in the meeting. Is he attached to this proposal as well?
Yeah,
I'm going to unmute Mr. Kavanaugh, actually.
I'm unmuted. Thank you. I am just here representing Keller Williams. So as it please the counselors, nothing else to report. We don't really have any skin in the game aside from we're just doing this for the town itself.
Excellent. Thank you. Do you have access to the chat window, Mr. Kavanaugh?
I do.
Okay, excellent. If you have anything to add, you or Mr. Healy, because I can't see your actual images, please just note something in the chat window and I will get to you as I can.
Thank you.
All right, now, Counselor Squalia.
Thank you. A couple questions. So the proposal is to sell the city-owned property within this proposal for $15,000. One question to Tom or maybe Mark or Rick. Why did the developer choose to this property for commercial flooring?
That might be a question best answered by Rick.
Because that's one of his primary businesses. He bought the property and the land that he had to acquire from the railroad because the assessors maps and his tape survey were off, unfortunately, and the building was on the railroad. Some of the building was on the railroad land when he bought 180 River Street. So he has this land that kind of is, the configuration really doesn't work well. But adding this to the back of the Fitchburg, city of Fitchburg land makes a decent sized lot. And he looked at that as a good use of the land. And he was looking to move to Fitchburg to establish a business here. And this seemed like an appropriate place that works for him.
Nice. So with this preliminary layout of the showroom and the parking, will this require like a large curb cut along River Street so that the parking, they can pull in and back out into traffic? Or is there, it doesn't look like there's enough room to be able to pull into one location. I see that there's an 18-foot hashed mark. What's the plan for that?
There will.
Go ahead, Rick.
I'm sorry. There is obviously going to be a site plan approval, but the one thing that I would say about Romy as a buyer, as opposed to any other potential buyer, because he owns this land in the back of the city of Fitchburg land, he can put the property back further that will enhance the curb cut and will make it easier to come on and off of the roadway. But really, to answer your question, it will require site plan approval.
Oh, okay. So the 74.9 and the 12-foot there, that cut, he owns beyond that some portion. So he'll be able to adjust this to make it work.
Yes, it's our opinion.
Okay, thank you. That's all I have for questions.
Thank you, Counselor. Before we proceed, I'd like to welcome Mr. Vieirada, who has joined us.
Hello, hi, how you doing?
Good. How are you?
Hi, everybody.
Is there anything you'd like to, I know you haven't been here the whole time, but we've got the basic outline of your plan. Is there anything specific you'd like to address to the committee before we move on?
Not really. I think I spoke with Rick like 2 or 3 days ago. We started talking about all the details. What is the plan to do it in Fitchburg? I've been working in Fitchburg for almost 3 years now. And my goal right now is make like a nice commercial place there for tiles. You know, tiles and tiles, granite, and cabinets. I want to make something nice, small, something beautiful for people who can come by and look at it and feel comfortable to buy a place. I did my research about tiles in the area of Fitchburg, and I haven't seen nothing really, really nice or attractive to people.
Okay. And just since you're here, you do understand that if we approve you tonight, it will just be an approval of the sale and you'll still have to go to the boards and commissions to get your other permits, right?
Yes.
Okay, just making sure.
Yes.
All right, before we proceed to either any other questions from counselors or a motion, we have a Mr. Dennis Halligan here. I'm not sure what his role in this is. Mr. Halligan, oh, I'm trying to unmute. Oh, there we go. Mr. Halligan, you are now unmuted. Could you just briefly indicate what your role here is? Mr. Halligan?
Sorry, I was double muted there.
Sorry about that.
So no, I'm a resident of Fitchburg. I happen to be out on the website searching for some information the other day, and I came across this note that stated that there was a Zoom meeting for a Zoom invite for open to the public. So again, I'm working from home, and I just decided I wanted to dial in as a spectator and listen to some of the topics that were discussed. So it's just for my own curiosity is all.
Oh, okay. Well, then welcome. You did come in after the public comment portion, so I think I'm gonna probably have you on mute for the rest of the time.
That's fine. Thank you.
But by all means, listen in, and we're glad you're here.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Okay, that being said, I see no additional notes from counselors, so I'm going to unmute council. Oh, I have a motion to approve from Councilor Green. Do I have a second?
Second.
All right, I have a
On the
motion
motion.
and second. Just a moment, Counselor. I have a motion and second. Oops. Counselor Boschman on the motion.
On the motion, I only had a question. I don't know how to ask questions on here. What am I supposed to do? But I do have one question for Rick or Tom. I'm not a fan of curb cuts. I told you that, Anthony. You know that. I'm not a big fan of curb cuts. I believe curb cuts causes accidents. And I'll go back to what you said, or Amy that said, he wants to ask for an easement on 180. Why not use that driveway for his business too?
So before I turn it over to Mr. Healy, I'd just like to note that as Tom Skorowski did note, and as I mentioned, this will still go before all the relevant boards, and an additional curb cut would have to go, I believe, before planning and most likely DPW. So we are not approving any curb cuts here tonight.
I understand that.
As to what actually happens with the, what the plan is, that's really up to the applicant. They can present to the boards whatever plan they want, and then the boards can approve it or not. That's not really our jurisdiction.
Well, I just want Tom to make sure that if he goes to the zoning board or the planning board, that he mentions that about the curb cuts. That's all I ask.
Absolutely. And as I noted in the comments there too, a street opening permit from DPW. So they're definitely going to have to take this by the subject matter experts. And I think we all share an apprehension with curb cuts, if not in the right location, and certainly in a well-traveled corridor such as this one. So I think we're going to take measures to make sure it's done in a safe way. And as was indicated by Mr. Healy, the fact that we'll have sufficient width will help to make this a safer curb cut than a more narrow example, which 180 currently uses. So, but again, this will get approved by DPW at the end of the day.
Counselor, you all set?
I'm all set.
All right then, Counselor Boschman, what is your vote?
Oh, yes.
Thank you. Counselor Fleming,
Yes.
Counselor Green,
Yes, and welcome, Romy.
and Counselor Squalia. Oh,
Yay.
yes,
Yay.
you are. Thank you. All right, it is unanimous. Motion carries. So we are recommending approval of this sale. Moving on, we are now on, sorry, turning pages. We are now on 09920. Same issue regarding 104 Daniels Street. Mr. Skorowski, if you'd like to present.
Sure. So 104 Daniels, another city-owned property, right in the Cleghorn neighborhood. It has been mixed use for a long time. There once was, I'm sure Councilor Boschman will correct me here, but some form of a convenience store on the first floor and 4 units above. What is now proposed is to remove the convenience store on the first floor. They didn't get a sense that was a viable product, and continue to have residential on the upper floors. On the second floor, it'd be 3-bedroom and a 1-bedroom, and on the third floor, 2 bedrooms. So 4 units in total, and they're planning to have 4 parking spaces actually accessed from the street level entrance. So that will require a special permit from Planning Board. It'll require a street opening permit from DPW. It'll also require the Planning Board, if approved, to waive the 2 spaces per unit requirement for all dwelling units in the city. So there's a number of different approvals that would be needed at this site. What I will say is this is a pretty difficult site to develop. We've certainly been weighing different options such as demo, which also, given that it is adjoining 2 other buildings, would be quite an expensive project in its own right. And I think what we have here is an end product. It's a $40,000 proposal. I think the end use is to produce more quality housing units in that neighborhood, which I think is serving a critical need. And the parking in the first floor is, I think, a nice sort of middle ground for what's needed there. And again, that mixed use, although is ideal in most cases here, isn't necessarily market appropriate. So I'll leave it at that. I'm not sure if we have the proposal here or not. I don't believe so.
All right. I have Councilor Squalia. Wait just one moment. You have the floor.
Thank you. So this proposal is to purchase this property for $40,000 and renovate it. I mean, that we get a
Councilor, we lost you.
pretty
I'll wait a
good
moment.
proposal and backing with a checking account. And can you hear me now?
Yes, got you back.
Okay, so to purchase the property for
Lost you again.
$40,000, and we have the proposal seems pretty good with architect's plans. Okay, where'd I cut off?
It's hard to say. You were starting again. Sorry.
Okay.
Yeah, your connection keeps freezing. I tell you what, I'm going to go to Councilor Green, and hopefully by the time she's done, your connection will have stabilized. All
Okay.
right. All right. Councilor Green,
Yes,
you have the
thank you.
floor.
Again, I realize this probably isn't ideal, but based on the situation and the very thorough paperwork that we received from the petitioner, it is quite impressive. They've got a big project ahead of them, and I'm all for, if somebody wants to, put in their own money for this type of a magnitude, especially there on Daniel Street, I commend them for that. I do want to make sure, though, that we're following all the guidelines set forth by the proposal and the architect on the work that needs to be done to get this project from finish to end, and that it's realistic with a time frame that will work so that it's not a project that's going to take 3 or 4 years to complete. So I'm all for wanting to bring in development. Again, I worry though, that's going to be a lot of people in this housing unit, potentially with children that will be going to school here in town. So again, it's not a bad deal for $40,000, but it is going to require a lot of financial input from our petitioner to get it to market. Hopefully market rate housing will be the end goal. So that's all. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll try Counselor Squalia again. One second. You have the floor.
Okay, like Councilor Green said, the proposal looks pretty thorough, but it feels like there's a difficult situation with the proposal for the first floor parking spaces and the reduction to one parking space per unit. If it doesn't work for the planning board or the zoning board, how does this proposal continue with the proposer? Do they still own it, or?
So that's a good question. We see this as sort of the standard due diligence process, working with these property owners, both with 190 River and 104 Daniels here, where, you know, the sale wouldn't be finalized until these steps were completed. So we wouldn't want to sell folks a bill of goods that was untrue. So to sell the property and then have it sit in, it's not good for the city or the proposer. They're now owning a property they can't do anything with. We no longer have a control of a property that could sit dormant long after. So I think we're looking to see this as part of the process, similar to if you're going to buy a home and you get a home inspection done, and you know, until X number of conditions are met, you don't close on the home. And I think we look to mirror that process here. We want to work with the property owners to make sure they can walk through the entire process, and this really being the first stage of that process. But certainly some hurdles to be faced, to be sure. But I do think they put together a fantastic proposal. It's a well-capitalized property owner who has done a lot of work throughout the Boston area. And as Councilor Squalia had mentioned before, they put forth a pretty strong proposal in terms of architect's plans and drawings. And I think they've got a good proposal here.
Thanks, Tom. So are you saying that this is contingent upon them, you know, the proposal going through the city process, or if it fails at some point, is it what happens?
Good question. So the idea, in a way, I guess I would say it's contingent. I suppose we could cross that bridge when we get there if they went through all the steps and they couldn't get all the requisite approvals, but then they felt like they had another plan to move forward with and wanted to still continue the sale. That's one thing. But that's generally the idea here, is we want to work with them, hold their hand throughout this process to see if they can take it to the finish line, and then the deal will close.
Okay. Thank you. That's all I have.
Thank you, Counselor. Before we move to anything, two things. First, I'd just like to note that normally I am really a stickler for parking. And honestly, I can't even promise that I won't be when this comes in front of zoning. But I do think that given the nature of the property, this seems like the best proposal we could expect from it. If we don't do this, I have a hard time imagining what else could reasonably be done with a property like that in that particular area. So I am also going to be in favor of that. Also, just as a procedural open meeting matter, though I doubt anyone's really going to care, I just want to note that Mr. Kavanaugh did send a text to through the chat box saying perhaps Councilor Squalia could use the chat box when she was having audio difficulties, to which I responded, chat box isn't being broadcast, so I'd be leery of that from an open meeting law standpoint. Just so that we have everything that has been communicated to the committee is on the record. That being said, I have a motion from Councilor Green and a second from Councilor Fleming to approve this proposal. Councilor Boschman?
Yep.
Councilor Fleming?
Yes.
Councilor Green?
Yes.
Councilor Squalia?
Yay.
And I am also in favor, so that is unanimous. Motion carries, and I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion and second to adjourn. I am not going to do a roll call for this. Unless there is any objection, we are adjourned.